The West has launched a massive hunt for the shadow fleet of the Russian Federation, moving on to the constant seizure of Vladimir Putin's oil tankers. The day before, the United States of America detained another tanker in the Indian Ocean that was being used to transport sanctioned oil. This was reported by the United States Department of Defense. And so, according to the Pentagon, the military tracked the movement of the vessel Veronica 3 from the Caribbean to the Indian Ocean, after which they stopped and effectively seized it. And this is already at least the 9th seizure of a tanker from the Russian Federation's shadow fleet by the Americans. At the same time, Trump and Netanyahu agreed to block Iran's shadow fleet, which is used by China to transport oil. And most importantly, on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference, a closed meeting was held at the level of the heads of defense departments of the Joint Expeditionary Force, led by the United Kingdom, a coalition of North American countries operating in the Baltic Sea and the North Atlantic. And at this meeting, something happened that Ukrainians had been waiting for a very long time. Britain and the European Union agreed on joint action scenarios regarding ships linked to Russia's shadow fleet, including joint operations to seize them. And interestingly, the Europeans want to build on the United States' success in intercepting tankers, and here Putin should really start worrying. My name is Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and leave any comment under this episode. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pichi News. The link is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in. So, the United States of America has detained another tanker in the Indian Ocean that was being used to transport sanctioned oil. As stated by the Pentagon, the United States military tracked the movement of the vessel Veronica 3 from the Caribbean to the Indian Ocean, after which they seized it. Reportedly, the boarding took place without incident. But next, I'll quote a very important statement from the Pentagon. International waters are not a sanctuary on land, in the air, or at sea. We will find you and hold you accountable. We warn other vessels about the consequences of violating the sanctions regime. And what's interesting here, as noted by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine's Resource War and Sanctions, Veronica 3 could have been used for the illegal transportation of hundreds of thousands of tons of Iranian and Venezuelan oil. And importantly, it was connected to Russians. Let me remind you earlier, on February 9, the American military seized the tanker Aquila 2 in the Indian Ocean, which is part of the Russian shadow fleet. The vessel tried to escape, violating the quarantine established by United States President Trump for sanctioned ships in the Caribbean. And now, according to the main intelligence directorate of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the Aquila 2 was transporting Russian and Venezuelan oil. The tanker is under sanctions from the United States, European Union, United Kingdom, Canada, and Ukraine, and its owner is the company Seizure. This company was added to the United States Treasury's sanctions list in January 2025. And now the detention of another tanker on February 15th is at least the 9th since December 2025 as part of the United States campaign against the shadow fleet, which Russia, Iran, and Venezuela used to bypass restrictions. According to The Telegraph, Donald Trump's decision to start fighting shadow tankers is linked to his growing frustration with Vladimir Putin, whom the American president has begun to see as a key obstacle to ending Russia's war against Ukraine. But it should be noted here that in the West, the size of the Russian shadow fleet is already estimated at about 1,400 vessels. According to the Dossier Center, to conceal their movements, tankers often turn off their transponders, falsify location data, and engage in risky ship-to-ship transfers right in open waters. Against this backdrop, a meeting was held on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference at the level of the defense ministers of the Joint Expeditionary Force. This is a United Kingdom-led coalition of Northern European countries operating in the Baltic Sea and the North Atlantic. And during the negotiations, the British Commander-in-Chief of the United States Armed Forces, Richard Neyton, presented various options for actions regarding those vessels connected to the shadow fleet of the Russian Federation, including joint operations to seize them. Is this how the Americans do it? This would allow Europeans, to build on and expand the success of the United States in intercepting tankers going to and from Venezuela. Bloomberg writes about this today. And according to one of the agency's sources, if a possible operation to seize shadow vessels led by London is carried out, Europe will likely coordinate its actions with the United States of America. At the same time, the attacks that have already occurred on tankers carrying Russian crude have caused concern in Moscow, and Kremlin representatives have privately demanded that the United States stop such actions. Before that, let me remind you, American forces had already seized at least 9 tankers linked to Russia. And all these outcries from the Moscow swamps saying stop, cease, are not being listened to by anyone. And here I'd like to point out that when the West starts acting decisively, it gives courage to others as well. So, the United States started openly seizing Russian Shadow Fleet tankers, and now Britain and the European Union are saying, listen, why are we any worse? We need to take these actions too, like if the United States can do it, so can we. And if we do it in coordination, in sync, we can actually destroy this Shadow Fleet altogether. We can seize these tankers, tow them away, just put them in ports and let them sit there, or simply take the oil from them, that's it. This is what should have been done with the Russians a long time ago. But they can scream all they want that Americans stop, don't do this, don't seize our tankers, but Americans don't care. Once again, on February 15th, the Americans seize another tanker from the Shadow Fleet. They don't care about the screams and squeals of the Russians. Well, and here I'll return to the meeting of the leaders of the Joint Expeditionary Force. This meeting took place in an atmosphere of mutual understanding. This was stated by the Minister of Defense of Estonia, Hanno Pevkur, and according to him, it was clear to the participants that they needed to act more proactively. Next, I'll quote him. Countries that provide flags to Shadow Fleet vessels should know that other countries may take certain measures. Some coalition members remain cautious due to concerns about escalation, but we are ready to act decisively. Let me remind you that in January 2026, 14 European countries warned that they intended to hinder the activities of Shadow Fleet tankers in the Baltic and North Seas. And as stated in the joint declaration published by the United Kingdom Ministry of Transport, vessels can sail under the flag of only one country and must have valid documents confirming their operational safety and insurance. Otherwise, the military forces of the signatory countries will intercept violating vessels for inspection. Well, it is already known that several such tankers left Russian ports and were forced to turn around and return to Murmansk, because they were signaled that they would be seized. Therefore, as we can see, they have finally started to act synchronously and decisively. And I really hope that now the United Kingdom and the European Union will only build on the successes of the Americans in seizing Shadow Fleet tankers, which we already know about today. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.